The phone screen lit up in the dark living room. On it was a video, shaky, grainy, but horribly clear. Samantha Cole's face was bruised, her lips trembling as she struggled to speak. In the background, the muffled sound of children crying pierced the room. The camera shifted, revealing a man's shadowed face. Her husband, Tyler Reed, holding the phone with one hand and something else in the other. He spoke in a calm, almost casual tone. "This is what happens when you try to leave me." The sound of Samantha gasping for air filled the small space as she clutched at her throat. Her legs kicked weakly. Her parents, Bill and Marlene Cole, watched in frozen horror as the man they once trusted squeezed the life from their only daughter on camera. When her body went still, Tyler leaned close to the camera, his voice low. "You raised a quitter." Then the screen went black. Bill's hand shook so violently he dropped the phone. Marlene's scream cut through the night like a knife. Samantha Cole used to have a life that many dreamed of. She had worked her way up from an intern to a junior producer at a major television network in Los Angeles. The hours were long, the stress high, but she thrived under pressure. She loved telling stories that mattered, exposing truths and shining a light on voices often unheard. Her parents still remember the day she called to say she'd landed a spot on the investigative team for a new primetime show. "This is it, Mom. My dream job. I made it." She had been glowing through the phone. That was before she met Tyler Reed. Tyler was charming in the way that made people feel seen. He was a widower with 2 young children, 8-year-old Noah and 5-year-old Lily, trying to juggle work as a construction foreman and parenting alone. They met at a coffee shop when Samantha offered to help carry his tray because his daughter was having a meltdown over spilled cocoa. Within months, they were inseparable. Tyler introduced her to his kids early, claiming it was because he knew she was the one. Samantha's friends thought it was fast, but she insisted it felt right. A year later, Tyler proposed in front of the kids. Noah handed her the ring, and Lily hugged her legs, saying, "Please be our mommy." Samantha said yes without hesitation. The decision to leave her job came 2 weeks after the wedding. Tyler told her the kids needed stability, that her long hours at the network weren't fair to them. He reminded her that his schedule was unpredictable and that she had a natural gift with children. "You're more important here than in some newsroom chasing stories about strangers," he said one night as they folded laundry. So Samantha turned in her resignation, telling her boss she was ready for a new chapter. Her parents were surprised but supportive. "You've always wanted a family," her mom said, hugging her. At first, the days were warm and full of laughter. She helped with homework, baked cookies, and took the kids to the park. Tyler came home tired but grateful, thanking her for holding everything together. But slowly, things changed. Tyler began criticizing her cooking, her spending, her cleaning. If she bought groceries that weren't on his list, he would accuse her of wasting money. If the kids misbehaved, he'd say she was too soft and needed to be more like their real mom. Then came the restrictions. He didn't like her visiting friends without him. He didn't want her going to her parents' house unless he approved. When she suggested getting a part-time job to help with bills, he told her, "What? So you can flirt with other men at work?" Samantha learned to keep quiet. The first time he shoved her, it was during an argument about dinner. She had made pasta, and he wanted steak. She stood there, shocked, as he muttered something about her being useless, and walked away. The next morning, he brought her flowers. By the third time, she stopped telling anyone. Her parents noticed she seemed withdrawn during calls, but she always insisted she was just tired. One afternoon, Samantha got a call from her old boss, offering her freelance work on a new documentary. She was excited and told Tyler about it, thinking maybe it could help with their finances. His smile faded instantly. "You're not going back. You're mine and your place is here," he said, voice low. That night, he locked her phone in a drawer. Things escalated quickly after that. On the day it happened, Samantha had secretly arranged to meet her parents. She had packed a small bag and hidden it under the bed, planning to leave while Tyler was at work. But he came home early. Bill and Marlene were waiting at the diner when her phone buzzed. A video file came through from Tyler's number. They assumed it was from Samantha until they pressed play. It would be hours before the police arrived at the Reed home. And by then, Tyler was gone. Detective Laura Mendoza had been on the force for 16 years, but nothing prepared her for the call she received that night. We got a suspected homicide in Westlake Village. Victim's husband is on the run. And there's a video, her captain said grimly, when she arrived at the Cole residence. The front porch light was on, but the atmosphere felt heavy, like the air had been sucked out. Bill and Marlene Cole were sitting on the couch, pale, silent, and visibly shaking. A young patrol officer was with them, but it was clear they were still in shock. Laura approached carefully. "Mr. and Mrs. Cole, I'm Detective Mendoza. I'm so sorry for your loss." Marlene didn't speak. She just pointed to the phone on the coffee table. Laura picked it up and tapped play. She didn't need to see the entire video. The first 30 seconds were enough to confirm that this was now a murder investigation. She paused it, her jaw tight. "When did you get this?" she asked. Bill's voice was hoarse. 15 minutes before we called you. It came from Tyler's number. That detail was critical. Tyler wasn't just a primary suspect. He was taunting them. When officers arrived at the Reed house, they found the front door unlocked. The home was eerily quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. The children were not inside. Laura's stomach sank. "We need to locate those kids now," she ordered. The living room was tidy, almost staged. But in the bedroom, the air was different. The bed was unmade, one pillow on the floor. A small duffel bag lay open under the frame, containing women's clothes and a wallet. There was no phone. On the dresser, Laura noticed a half-drunk glass of water and a scattering of broken ceramic. The shards matched a vase from the living room. She crouched, looking closer. There was a small smear of blood on one of the pieces. The forensic team arrived within minutes. Crime scene photographer Jenna Murphy began snapping images of everything. Tyler's work boots near the closet, a chair turned slightly toward the window, the contents of Samantha's purse spilled in the corner. In the bathroom, they found a damp towel with what appeared to be makeup smudges. But the most telling evidence was in the garage, an empty space where Tyler's black Ford F-150 usually sat. Laura gathered the team in the driveway. "Here's what we know so far. Tyler Reed is in possession of a vehicle, possibly the two children, and he's already shown he's capable of extreme violence. We treat him as armed and dangerous. Put out a bolo and ping his phone, if it's still on." At 2 a.m., officers canvassed the neighborhood. One neighbor, a retiree named Helen, reported seeing Tyler's truck speed away just after sunset. "I thought it was strange, him leaving so fast. He had the kids in the back seat," she said. That piece of information confirmed everyone's worst fear. The children were with him. Back at the station, Laura sat with Bill and Marlene to take their statements. The more they described the past year, the more disturbing Tyler sounded. "She stopped visiting us without warning," Marlene said quietly. "She would text late at night, saying she was okay, but I could tell she wasn't." Bill's voice cracked. "We didn't think we thought he just had a temper. We didn't know he was capable of this." Laura didn't sugarcoat it. "If he sent you that video, it means he wants you to feel powerless. We're not going to let him win, but we have to move fast." By dawn, the search had expanded across county lines. Tyler's truck was spotted on a highway camera heading north toward Bakersfield. A helicopter was dispatched, and CHP units were put on alert. Then, just as the team was coordinating the roadblocks, Laura's phone buzzed. It was an email from an unknown address. Subject line, "Want to see her last words?" She opened it and froze. Attached was another video. Laura stared at the email on her screen, her pulse quickening. The sender's address was a meaningless jumble of letters and numbers, clearly a throwaway account. The timestamp showed it had been sent less than 10 minutes ago. She hesitated for only a moment before clicking the attachment. The video opened in the same dimly lit bedroom from the first recording. Samantha was on the floor now, her back against the wall, her hands trembling. Her voice was faint but steady. "Mom, Dad, if you're seeing this, it means it's already—" She broke off, wincing as if someone had struck her. Tyler's voice came from behind the camera. Tell them why you're doing this, Sam. Her eyes filled with tears. Because I can't. Her words cut out again, replaced by a choked sob. Then the screen went black. Laura's jaw tightened. She replayed the last few seconds. Twice. Something caught her attention, not in the foreground but in the background. There was a faint hum, deeper than the room's ambient noise. That's not a bedroom hum, she muttered. She called in Detective Harris, the department's tech specialist. He plugged in headphones, replayed it, and nodded. Industrial fridge. You hear that constant low pitch? Probably from a commercial kitchen or a storage unit with a cooling system. Laura scribbled a note. That narrowed their search. Bakersfield had a handful of cold storage facilities and truck stop diners along the highway. Meanwhile, patrol units were still tracking Tyler's truck. But every camera hit seemed to be an hour behind. At one exit, they found a witness, a truck driver, who swore he'd seen a man matching Tyler's description switch license plates in a gas station lot. He had 2 kids with him, eating chips in the back seat. The driver added, this was bad. Tyler was staying mobile, and a license plate change would make him harder to spot on highway cameras. By noon, they'd checked 2 cold storage warehouses. Both were clean, no sign of Tyler, Samantha, or the kids. Each dead and chipped away at morale. Back at the station, Laura sat in the briefing room with her team. We're missing something, she said, pacing. Tyler isn't just running. He's taunting us. These videos aren't for ransom. They're to control the family, to make them watch what he's doing in real time. Harris pulled up the metadata from the latest video. GPS data's been scrubbed. Whoever sent this knows how to cover tracks. Laura frowned. Tyler had been a construction foreman, not exactly a tech wizard. So who's helping him? Late afternoon, a tip came in from a motel clerk in Wasco, about 20 miles from Bakersfield. A man checked in with 2 kids the night before, paid cash, and left early that morning. When Laura showed the clerk a photo of Tyler, the man nodded. That's him. But he wasn't alone. There was another guy, bigger, bald, tattoos on his neck. He did most of the talking. That piece of information sent a chill through the room. Tyler wasn't just on the run. He had backup. Laura left the motel and headed back toward the highway when her phone buzzed again. Another email. Same scrambled address. Subject, next clip. She pulled over on the shoulder, opened it, and froze. This time, Samantha wasn't speaking. She was in the trunk of a vehicle. Her wrists were bound, and her eyes were wide with terror as the camera panned to show a set of license plates, different from Tyler's truck. Laura's heart pounded. They had been looking for the wrong vehicle for hours. Laura didn't waste a second. She forwarded the still image from the video to the California Highway Patrol and ordered every unit in the region to be on the lookout for the new license plates. We've been shadowboxing this whole time, she told Harris. He's ditched the truck. Now we know why the camera hits were lagging. He wanted us chasing a ghost. The plates came back to a white 2004 Chevy Suburban registered to a man named Dennis Morales, a known associate of Tyler from his construction days. Morales had a record, aggravated assault, illegal firearms possession, and was last released from prison 18 months ago. Laura's gut told her this was the bald man the motel clerk had described. By mid-afternoon, a highway camera finally spotted the Suburban heading east toward the Mojave Desert. 2 CP cruisers gave chase, but the vehicle exited abruptly onto a rural road and disappeared. The officers found only dust and tire marks. Frustration rippled through the team. Every time they got close, Tyler and Morales seemed to evaporate into the landscape. Meanwhile, Bill and Marlene Cole were kept under constant watch at their home in case Tyler tried to contact them again. That night, Marlene sat in her kitchen, hands wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. She was supposed to meet us for dinner that night, she told Laura when the detective stopped by. She said she had good news, but she didn't say what. Do you think she was planning to leave him? Laura hesitated, but nodded. It's possible, and that could have been the trigger. Marlene's eyes welled. If we had just gone to her house ourselves. Laura cut her off gently. This isn't on you. This is on him. The next morning, the FBI joined the search, bringing in additional resources. They believed Tyler might try to cross state lines to make it harder for local law enforcement to pursue him. They also brought in a profiler who studied Tyler's behavior patterns. He's not running from the law in the usual sense, the profiler explained. He's staging performance. These videos aren't just trophies. They're his way of keeping psychological dominance over his victim's family. Laura clenched her jaw. So he's going to send another one. That prediction came true faster than anyone expected. At 3:27 p.m., another email arrived. No subject line this time, just a video file. Laura opened it in the operations room with her team gathered around. The footage showed Samantha in a dim, concrete-walled room, sitting on the floor, her hands still tied. Morales stood off to the side, eating from a bag of chips, while Tyler crouched in front of her. "Tell them how much you miss your parents." Samantha's voice trembled. "Mom, Dad, I'm okay. I'm okay." Then Tyler looked directly into the camera. "We're going on a little road trip. Try to keep up." The video ended with the sound of a heavy metal door slamming shut. Laura immediately recognized something in the background, a faded painted number on the concrete wall. Unit 14B. Storage units. But which one? Laura froze the frame on the painted number. Unit 14B. It wasn't much, but it was the first tangible lead they'd had in days. She sent the image to every precinct within a 200-mile radius, along with a request for a list of storage facilities that had units marked in that style. Within 2 hours, the data came back. There were 57 possible locations. It was too many to check one by one. Not without losing more precious time. Harris pulled up satellite imagery of the facilities. Look for any near major highways headed east, Laura instructed. Tyler's on the move, but he's not going to stray far from routes that let him disappear fast. Narrowing it down to 9 locations, they divided the list among law enforcement teams in 3 counties. Laura took the one in Barstow herself. The Barstow facility sat on the edge of a dusty industrial park. Rows of corrugated metal doors stretched into the distance, each with its own number stenciled in white paint. The manager, a wiry man in his 50s, met her at the front office. "Unit 14B? Yeah, it's rented. Paid in cash. No name on the paperwork. Started about 2 weeks ago." Laura's pulse quickened. "Has anyone been here recently?" He hesitated. "Yesterday. A guy with a shaved head and neck tattoos. Didn't stay long." Backup arrived, and they approached Unit 14B with guns drawn. The manager unlocked the padlock, then stepped back. Laura pulled the door up and froze. The unit was empty. The concrete floor was still damp in spots, like something had been washed away. A faint smell of bleach hung in the air. In one corner lay a small scrap of fabric, a piece of floral cotton. Laura recognized the pattern immediately. It matched the blouse Samantha had been wearing in the last video. "They were just here," Laura muttered, frustration and urgency churning inside her. She scanned the walls again. On the back of the unit door, barely visible under fresh paint, were 2 words scratched into metal. "Help me." It was in shaky handwriting, Samantha's handwriting. Back at the station, Harris examined security footage from the facility. The cameras had been spray-painted over 2 days earlier. But one grainy shot from a street camera across the road showed the Suburban leaving around noon, towing a small utility trailer. "Trailer changes everything," Harris said grimly. "We could be looking for 2 separate hideouts now." Then came the break they weren't expecting. A state trooper in Needles, near the Arizona border, pulled over a pickup truck for speeding. Inside was a man who matched Morales' description, but no Tyler, no Samantha, no kids. In the bed of the truck, the trooper found rope, duct tape, and a digital camera. When Laura arrived to question him, Morales smirked. "You're too late, detective. By now, she's halfway to nowhere." Laura leaned forward. "If you think protecting him will help you, you're wrong. You're the one in custody." "He's not." Morales chuckled. "You think I'm protecting him?" "Lady, I'm protecting myself. You don't know what that man's capable of." Before she could push further, his attorney shut the interview down. Back in her car, Laura's phone buzzed. Another email. No words, just a single image. Samantha, sitting in the trailer, hands bound. Behind her, taped to the wall, was a map with a red X marked in the middle of the desert. The map was crude, hand-drawn, with only a few landmarks sketched in. No road names, no clear scale, just a jagged outline of mountains, a winding dirt track, and that ominous red X in the middle of nothingness. Laura spread it across the operations table while her team leaned in. "It's a taunt," Harris said. "He wants us to chase him." "Or it's a trap," another officer added. Laura knew both were possible, but the thought of Samantha bound in a trailer somewhere under the baking desert sun left no room for hesitation. By dawn, 2 unmarked SUVs and a helicopter were headed toward the area roughly indicated on the map. The deeper they went, the fewer signs of civilization remained. The dirt road narrowed until it was just a pair of ruts in sand, bordered by scraggly creosote bushes and jagged rock. The GPS signal flickered. Cell reception dropped. At mile marker 17 on the odometer, the road dipped into a shallow canyon, and there, half hidden behind a boulder, was a white utility trailer. Laura's heart leapt. That's it. They approached slowly, weapons raised. The trailer door was locked, but the padlock looked freshly scratched, as if someone had been fiddling with it. Laura signaled to breach. The bolt cutters snapped the lock in two. She yanked the door open. The trailer was empty. Inside, there was only a single folding chair and an empty water bottle rolling on the floor. The air was stifling, metallic, and still. On the wall where the map had been in the photo, there was now nothing but bare plywood. A crushing wave of frustration hit Laura. They had been here hours too late. Harris studied the ground outside. Fresh tire tracks. 2 vehicles, maybe 3. They left recently. The helicopter scoured the surrounding area, but the endless expanse of desert offered too many escape routes. That night, back at the station, Laura sat alone in the evidence room. She replayed all the videos, pausing on every detail. Scratches on walls, shadows, reflections. She was looking for something, anything they'd missed. But all she felt was a gnawing weight of failure. She'd promised Bill and Marlene she would bring Samantha home. Now, days had passed, and all there were scraps, fabric, tire tracks, and a trail of psychological warfare Tyler seemed to enjoy playing. Then, around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another email. Subject, last night. She clicked. The video was darker than the others, but she could make out Samantha, lying on her side, her breathing shallow. Tyler's voice was close to the microphone. "Tomorrow, I'm going to make sure you remember this forever, Bill and Marlene." In the background, Laura caught a faint but distinct sound, distant train horns. Her mind raced. That was it. That was the one sound that could pinpoint a location in the desert. Laura replayed the clip again, this time with headphones on, isolating the faint train horns. "That's a Union Pacific Freight line," Harris said after listening. "It runs through the Mojave from Barstow toward Needles. Only a handful of sightings in that stretch where you'd hear it that close." They cross-referenced the possible locations with recent satellite images. One stood out. A derelict cattle processing plant, abandoned for years, but still standing near a disused rail spur. "That's our spot," Laura said, already reaching for her vest. They rolled out before sunrise, for unmarked vehicles cutting across the desert roads. The air was dry and still, the kind that made every sound carry. As they neared the plant, the distant wail of a freight train echoed through the open land. Laura's grip on the steering wheel tightened. She signaled for a split approach. 2 cars circling wide to block exits while she and Harris moved in from the front. The building loomed ahead, rusted corrugated metal and shattered windows. The wide loading bay doors were half closed, leaving a sliver of darkness inside. Laura's voice was barely a whisper into her radio. "On my count, 3, 2, 1. They breached. Inside, the stench of oil, rust, and stale air hit immediately. Old machinery stood like skeletons, casting long shadows in the early light. And then movement. Tyler stepped out from behind a conveyor belt, grinning like he'd been expecting them. "You're getting better at this, detective," he said, holding something in his right hand. It was a phone, Samantha's phone. Where is she? Laura demanded, weapon leveled. Tyler smirked. You're not going to shoot me. You want the girl alive. Before Laura could respond, a heavy metallic clang echoed from deeper inside the plant. Harris broke off toward the sound, vanishing into the maze of machinery. Tyler's eyes flicked in that direction, and he bolted. Laura gave chase, weaving between rusted beams and dangling chains. Tyler was fast, leaping over debris, shoving crates into her path. She closed the gap, but he darted through a side door that opened onto a catwalk. The drop below was a 30-foot fall onto concrete. Tyler paused at the edge, chest heaving. She made her choice when she left her job for me, he said, almost shouting over the wind. She wanted a family. Now she's part of mine forever. Then he swung himself over the edge onto a lower platform and took off again. From somewhere ahead came Harris's voice. Laura, found her. Laura's heart leapt. She sprinted forward, bursting into a side room. Samantha was there, bound, bruised, and barely conscious, slumped against a wall beside an old meat freezer. Her lips parted as she tried to speak, but only a faint rasp came out. Laura knelt beside her. You're safe now. We've got you. But before she could cut the restraints, the sound of an engine roared to life outside. Tyler was making his getaway. Laura didn't hesitate. Harris, get her out of here, she barked, shoving the utility knife into his hand. Then she took off toward the sound of the engine. Outside, the blinding desert sun lit up a cloud of dust where Tyler's stolen dirt bike tore across the gravel lot. Laura sprinted to one of the unmarked SUVs, the driver already revving the engine. Go! She shouted, slamming the door. The chase was brutal. Tyler weaved between rusted vehicles and crumbling fences, the dirt bike spitting gravel. The SUV bounced hard over uneven ground, the tires skidding on loose sand. Laura kept her eyes locked on him. Every second he stayed ahead was another chance for him to vanish into the open desert. They finally broke through the far side of the property, where the land dipped toward the rail line. A freight train was lumbering past, the same one whose horn had given away his location. Tyler gunned the bike toward it. He's going to try to ride alongside and jump, the driver said grimly. Not happening, Laura replied, unclipping her seatbelt. The SUV surged forward, closing the gap. Laura flung the passenger door open, waited for the right moment, then launched herself onto Tyler. They both hit the ground hard, tumbling in the dust. The dirt bike skidded away and slammed into a boulder. Tyler scrambled to his feet, swinging wildly. Laura blocked, drove her shoulder into his chest, and forced him down. He fought like a man who knew the end was near, but she was fueled by every second of the nightmare he had put Samantha through. A final, solid strike knocked the wind out of him. She wrenched his arms behind his back and snapped the cuffs on. It's over, Tyler. Back at the plant, paramedics worked over Samantha. She was dehydrated, weak, and suffering from a mild concussion, but alive. When Laura approached, Samantha's eyes opened just enough to meet hers. Thank you, she whispered, her voice raw. Bill and Marlene arrived minutes later, running to their daughter's side. Marlene collapsed into sobs as she clutched Samantha's hand. Bill, tears streaming down his weathered face, looked at Laura. You kept your promise. 2 months later, Tyler Reed's trial was swift. The prosecution presented the videos, the evidence from the storage unit, and Morales' eventual testimony, turning on Tyler to save himself from a life sentence. The jury took less than 4 hours to convict him on charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, kidnapping, and sending obscene material with intent to cause distress. The judge sentenced him to life without the possibility of parole. At the sentencing, Marlene addressed the court. You took our daughter's safety, her freedom, her future, and you tried to make us watch her die. But you failed. She's still here, and you will never touch her again. Samantha didn't speak, but when Tyler was led past her, she sat tall, her gaze steady. She didn't flinch. Laura stood outside the courthouse afterward, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows. Harris joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. You think she'll be okay? He asked. Laura took a slow sip before answering. She's been through hell, but she's still here, and that's a start. In the distance, Samantha walked between her parents, their hands clasped together like they'd never let go again. For the first time in weeks, Laura let herself breathe, because in the end, they had won, not just a case, but Samantha's life back.